I'm Jocelyn Segal, and I teach at Cohen Hill Academy in Marblehead, Massachusetts. And currently I teach third grade general studies, and I also teach a couple other upper school classes, which I'll talk a little bit about in a little bit. So the first big idea, which is my starting point, is that classroom culture is determined by the teacher and what the teacher cares about. And that chavruta is a vehicle to teach Jewish values, or midot. So I'm going to talk about how I infuse Jewish values across 4 different main ways. The first is rituals, which could be daily, monthly, etc. And specific units that I've developed based on the values that I've chosen, the explicit values that I want to teach to my students, and then I've created units that reflect those values. And then spontaneous integration. How can you prepare yourself so that in a moment you could react to a situation and still infuse Jewish values? Shechianu. So it's a prayer that we say to help us appreciate it and mark new experiences. So I take Shechianu and I teach it to my class on the first day of school. I talk about this is the first time and the only time that you're ever going to be a third grader, on the first day of school, and they're really excited about this, and they know Shechianu, and we studied it a little bit, what it translated, and I teach them a Rachel Cole version of it, which has the English translation of it also, and it's really boppy, and they love it. And then we talk about how they can actually, be in charge of this, that there's a moment that they're doing something or taking a risk to try something new, then they can say, it's time to do Shechianu. And that actually happened a couple weeks later. This is a great first day activity that then is connected to every other day for the rest of the year. Another thing that I did during the first 6 weeks of the year was I taught the kids about Tefillat HaDerech, which is the traveler's prayer. So we talked about and explored how traveling through space, and how we can travel through space and say a prayer for it, and this is the prayer, and we studied it, and also about traveling through time. And so what do we want our time together for this third grade year, our journey together to look like, to sound like, to feel like, and all of this, and the kids had a lot of ideas about that. And so this was a template that I presented to them, and I did this with the Judaic Studies teacher and our intern. We all worked on this together. In past years, I'd done the typical responsive classroom, Ruth Charney way of pick your hope and dream, create a symbol, teach them about a symbol, and we put it up on the wall, and it was great, and it was up the whole year, and we'd refer back to it. But now, the thing that I did different this past year is that I took a process that we did normally, and I made it through the Jewish lens. So it was rooted in a Jewish value or Jewish idea. Each kid picked a road symbol. This was a little road that I put up on the wall. And they then picked their specific, both in general studies and Judaic studies, of what goal they wanted to learn. They wrote a sentence in Hebrew and in English. So I want to learn cursive, one of the students said. And this is up for the entire year, and therefore something that I can refer back to in many different ways. So it could be right after a vacation. Let's take a little tour of our classroom. We all walk over to the bulletin board, or up on the wall, and say, let's see how we're doing. Let's do a check-in. Or if there's an explosion of friendship, around February or something like that we can be like, okay, we might have different goals now. So another ritual that we do in our classroom is we switch desks every month. And so the kids really look forward to Rosh Chodesh, and because then they get to figure out who's going to, be their new partner. And so it's marking Jewish time in the classroom. And then finally, daily songs. And so whenever I do morning meeting, as part of, I don't do games with them, but I'll do singing with them, which I love. And so we have different song packets. So not only do we sing some classic folk songs and some silly poem type songs, but also prayers that have been turned into songs. So by this band Shirav, and you could look them up online, get their CD, there's a Moda Ani song that I love and the kids love singing, and it has the Hebrew, but it also has the English in it, which I feel like is really important because they all the time are thinking about what the words of the prayer mean and mean to them specifically. And we will even take the time to study that song as a text together. So here are some of the big ideas that I have been working on. And then Unit 3 is about how everyone is needed in our classroom community. And so through a specific value text that I've chosen, we explore that idea. I love watching the videos of the kids working in Chavruta because this is where I have evidence to see that the social aspect is crucial in learning. It's amazing to see how much they're able to focus, just one-on-one with another person. They're excited to learn in this way. We explore this question many times throughout the year of why would Jews do this? Why has Chavruta been something that we've done for hundreds of years? And the kids have a lot to say about that, and their ideas do change over time the more experience they have practicing in Chavruta. And then the kids see, wow, my general studies teacher knows Hebrew, is doing something Jewish in my classroom, and they think that's pretty cool, and they like to tell me that, which I love. So this is actually an artifact from my classroom from last year. And so here's two of my little students, and they're actually learning in Chavruta. So what I did with these photographs that I took of the kids is that I printed them out, which they were very excited about, and I put them on large posters. And the kids had to diagram what active listening looked like, what it sounded like, what it felt like, and they drew little, they took a ruler and they drew a line, right? So it would say, I'm having great eye contact with so-and-so. There's one person speaking at a time. We are taking turns, and they wrote out everything that was happening all around it, and they worked with their Chavruta to create these placemats. I laminated them, and then they became, during that unit that we were doing, or that Chavruta practice time, the placemat they put down, so when they set up their desk, I'd go around and hand them out, and I would ask them to review it. Which one are you going to work on today? I'm just going to talk briefly about another Chavruta practice that we started exploring in the second unit, which is respectful challenge. And so this is actually, the words for this came from Orit Kent from the Beit Midrash Project at the Mandel Center in her PhD research. And so often in classrooms, I think it's called respectful disagreement. And here's a photograph of some of my students that were working on a social studies project. So here's an opportunity for them to practice the Chavruta practice of respectful challenge. They're going to get into disagreements. So I can come over and say, okay, let's pause for a minute. How could you say that in a respectful challenge way?